Stop for a moment and take a deep breath. Right now, pause everything because this message is calling you urgently in the silence. And it's no coincidence you've landed here right at this precise instant. The universe never slips up. Even these digital realms, though they feel icy, respond to the vibrational signals your focused attention has released. There come moments when the heart detects truths far ahead of what the mind can process or justify with logic. This stands as one of those critical turning points. You arrived here since, despite your ongoing uncertainties, despite the constant questions swirling in your mind about whether this individual truly remembers you, whether loose ends linger between you, or whether the connection has truly ended, a profound shift has already occurred on the spiritual plane. It was not a conversation you could catch. It was not a message that reached your device. It was not even an obvious indicator in your surroundings. It was a profound, inner, and complete decision, formed in a realm you could not access because it unfolded in the stillness of the other realm. Today, this reaches you as your spirit requires awareness of what this unseen shift holds for your journey. It is very likely that for days or weeks, or even months, you have carried a strange pressure in your chest, a sort of subtle anxiety you cannot quite identify. It feels like something is forming, as if you await a signal that never comes, with the sense that the story is not finished, but also not progressing. This bodily sensation, this constriction in your throat, or this abrupt awakening in the middle of the night, is not a mark of frailty or a product of your fantasy. There is a quiet that holds far greater power than any spoken declaration. When the soul sighs or grows uneasy in this manner, it is not due to emotional strain, but because it senses with certainty that the mind cannot grasp that something will soon reveal itself. Your energy field detects a shift in the vibration of the connection. Just as a detector spots an object long before the eyes detect it on the horizon, this person who has occupied so many of your thoughts is no longer trapped in the uncertainty you imagined. They no longer hesitate as they once did. They no longer dwell in that uncertain space where all options felt open, but none materialized. There was a recent instant, perhaps a sleepless night, a moment of pure isolation while driving or staring into nothing, in which this person finally confronted their emotions and selected a direction. Here is what you must embrace in your awareness today. This decision did not stem from the ego, from the dread of solitude, or from the pursuit of comfort. It arose from something far more profound and ancient. When two souls are destined to connect and evolve together, they cannot evade their link forever. They can resist it. Yes, they can isolate themselves, remain distant physically, erect barriers of quiet, and appear completely detached to all. But there arrives a crossroads, a boundary where the accumulated force no longer permits them to disregard what is authentic. That boundary has already been reached. You sense this activated force and this anxious anticipation because your soul is inherently connected with theirs. Physical separation does not matter. The period without communication does not matter. What you expressed or withheld in the past does not matter. There are invisible threads that cannot be severed by harsh statements or temporary external decisions. When a decision forms from the essence of existence, the other always perceives it, even without tangible evidence to convince the mind. This is why recently you catch their voice without any obvious trigger amid your routine activities. This is why memories of this person surface when you least anticipate them, disrupting your tasks or your moments of calm. This is why you envision them even when you attempt to empty your thoughts before sleep. It is not obsession. It does not mean you cannot advance. It is a genuine and powerful link. It is evidence that the channel of spiritual dialogue is active and functioning. Many people mistakenly think that destined love or soul connections are always gentle, obvious, straightforward, and effortless like a fairy tale. But spiritual reality is quite distinct. True love, the type that transforms the essence of those it affects, frequently disrupts stability, generates anxiety, compels one to confront their own shadows, demands rapid evolution, and exposes old wounds that one prefers to conceal. This person had to confront all of that during their absence. They had to gaze into the reflection of the soul without the everyday disguises they normally wear, and question whether they were prepared to continue fleeing from their own reality, or whether they would finally summon the courage to embrace what they have always sensed for you. You may have believed that uncertainty still dominated their existence and that everything remained frozen, but that is not the case. The decision has already been formed, and although you do not yet witness it expressed in immediate external steps, it already lives and vibrates on a spiritual plane. When something is solidly established on that plane, the physical realm, the reality you feel and observe only requires some time to align with it and manifest it. Nothing can halt this manifestation once the inner intention aligns with destiny. This message does not arrive to offer you empty optimism or leave you in a difficult burden. It arrives to illuminate your intuition, because there are decisions that do not signify a complete close, but a massive pivot in the narrative. There are decisions that from the surface appear like separation, but are actually a preparation. There is a quiet, like the one you have endured, that is not abandoning you, but a necessary internal adjustment. This person required this period and this space to determine whether they would confront the magnitude of what they feel for you. At last, they did. Now, pay attention to what you sense in your body as you absorb these words. Do not turn to your analytical mind. Turn to your intuition. The body does not deceive. The soul does not deceive. If there is a strange blend of profound calm and trembling anticipation, it is because this information aligns with what your higher self already recognized. If you feel tears ready to emerge, it is because something is releasing. A release of emotional burden begins. If you feel a tension in your stomach starting to ease, it is because the reality touches an old wound to mend it. You are not awaiting someone who remains undecided. You are in a sacred journey in which forces are aligning so that what has been determined appears in the proper manner and at the ideal time. Sometimes this appearance does not arrive in the form you envision in your hopes. Sometimes it does not arrive in the schedule the impatient ego desires, but it always arrives in the manner the soul requires to evolve. If you are prepared to integrate this insight into your existence, write in the comments, "I am ready to receive." To grasp the scale of what is happening, we must look into the makeup of this silence that has hurt you so much. It is easy to misunderstand the absence of contact. In our fast-paced culture, we conclude there is no concern if there is no reply. If there is no call, we conclude there was neglect. But in the realm of profound connections, silence is often the most dynamic area of creation that exists. This person did not make a casual decision to withdraw or remain in the background. It was not an impulsive move of one day or a brief impulse. It was the outcome of a lengthy, silent, and frequently solitary internal battle. A conflict between what their heart sensed and what their conditioned mind believed they must do to endure. For a long time, this person attempted to persuade themselves with various rational arguments that they could proceed without glancing backward. They tried to occupy themselves, overload their mind with excessive duties, or occupy vacant areas with superficial activities. They even tried to connect with others to discover whether they could locate what they sensed with you. But nothing could erase the persistent sense that something was unresolved with you. A door that could not be closed, no matter how forcefully they attempted. When the connection is authentic and has spiritual foundations, it cannot be substituted. One can attempt to disregard it or mask it with activity, but it cannot be eliminated. Every unsuccessful retreat, every diversion that concluded with the hollow feeling of emptiness, drew this person nearer and nearer to the inevitable instant of decision. There are decisions that are not announced with bold declarations. They do not arrive with extended notes or grand vows online. They are simply experienced in the pressure of everyday existence. This person started to sense the burdensome load of not honoring themselves. They started to realize that the void they experienced did not stem from separation, but from rejecting their reality. Rejecting what they felt for you demanded too much vitality. It robbed their tranquility. There arrived a moment when existing in this deception became impossible. The force required to suppress a genuine love is immense. This person no longer possessed the power to continue pretending. Maybe in your lonely evenings, you frequently questioned whether you had erred, whether you revealed too much, whether you were too vulnerable, or whether your affection frightened the other person off. I want you to absorb this clearly and cease feeling at fault. It was not your passion that created difficulty. It was not your affection that prompted the retreat. It was the other person's brief incapacity to manage the depth of what they sensed at that moment. There are souls that require time to learn to accept what they have always sought. Sometimes, when the blessing arrives, the dread of not deserving it, or the dread of losing it, causes the initial response to be one of safeguarding and closing off. This person had to overcome very profound and intense fears. Fear of losing command over their organized existence, fear of fully surrendering and becoming vulnerable, fear of repeating painful experiences from before, fear of not being able to fulfill what this connection required in terms of authenticity. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, they claimed space, not because they sensed nothing, but because they sensed too intensely. Too much emotion can terrify someone unaccustomed to profound feelings. But time passed, and time has a remarkable ability. It arranges everything properly. As the days and nights progressed, clarity emerged. When external distractions diminish, the inner guidance becomes impossible to overlook. In that stillness, they realized that distancing did not deliver the calm they sought. They realized that delaying the reality only accumulated remorse and a profound yearning. They realized that what occurred with you was not a fortunate coincidence or a brief mix-up, but a destined encounter that altered their life narrative. The decision formed recently is not trivial. It is not merely about dispatching a note or an outing. It is a life decision about how they will exist from this point forward. It is a decision to no longer deceive their inner being, to embrace that there are connections that do not enter our lives to be simple, but to transform us and shatter our former patterns. You were and are the primary catalyst of this change in their existence. That is why it is possible that you have recently sensed a peculiar emotional exhaustion, as if you no longer wished to struggle, as if you had lowered your defenses and released the urge to direct the outcome. This fatigue is not surrendering up, it is being spiritually expanded. It is your soul declaring, "I have done my part. I have sent the signal. Now I trust the big movement." When one ceases attempting to direct everything, things curiously begin to flow differently. Resistance dissolves and lets energy flow. Do not believe that this person's inner decision means that tomorrow everything will be immediate or flawless. The journey of destined love is seldom a direct path.